Hello everybody. Today is the 105th anniversary of the birth of Clara Rockmore, the theremin virtuoso. According to Google, that is today. If you go to Google, when this video is up, you should see that there, and actually you can Google her and check out some of her tunes. But we're going to look at, in celebration, we're going to look at something very special today. So if that's something you're interested in, stay tuned. Okay. In honor of Clara Rockmore's 105th birthday, we're going to take a look at something today I've been meaning to take a look at for quite some time. This is a 1960, or 1958 to 1960, I haven't quite nailed down the year yet, Moog Vanguard Theremin. If you've never seen one of these before, it's because they are exceedingly rare. This is actually the first instrument that Robert Moog ever designed and built. He built these by hand in New York, and they are all done by him. He didn't have a factory at this time, so what you see in front of you was actually built by Bob Moog's own hands. Moog would later go on to larger fame by introducing his Moog synthesizers to the world. Those are the synthesizers, the early ones that you can hear on records like Darkside of the Moon and all those classic rock albums. So pretty special when you can get something made by his own hands. Now there's actually another layer to the history of this thing which I will go into briefly as well. This is on top of being made by Robert Moog. This particular theremin was also, it belonged to a man named Bill DeMar. Bill DeMar was a ventriloquist, and he was also, he also did other things like comedy sketches and so forth, and he played banjo and stuff, but he was actually interviewed at one point in his life by the Warren Commission because he had actually been doing shows in the club of Jack Ruby, who shot Lee Harvey Oswald. And the reason he was called the Warren Commission, to my understanding, was because he had seen Lee Harvey Oswald inside Jack Ruby's club like the week before everything went down, before the president was shot. He was known around town in Dallas. He actually played down the street a lot from Jack Ruby's club, but again, he was also known to play in Jack Ruby's club. And this was something that he owned, and according to his son, from whom I bought it, may have been something that he used on stage in some of his acts. I also managed to get a banjo from him, which we can take a look at as well in this video. That's pretty cool. That was definitely used by him on stage and can be seen in a video you can find online. I will put all of the links and relevant links and everything in the description of this video, and it will definitely be something you'll want to check out because there's just a lot of cool history surrounding this thing. But what we're going to do in this video is take a look at this theremin. We're going to look it over completely. I'll probably open it up and we'll take a look at the innards a little bit. And at the end of the video, we will fire it up and hear what it sounds like. Yeah, you can tell this thing is from about 1960 or late 50s because this grill cloth is real typical of the sort of thing that you saw around that time period. These look like knobs off of a big radio or something. He may have been getting from some of the same supply houses. We have what looks like a plexiglass sort of material here with on, silent, and play switch here. This is the original knob. Some of these that you'll see will have a chicken head knob, I think, in this position, but on this one it has this type of knob, same as these. Here is the pitch adjustment, the volume adjustment. This is the volume control. And these actually come out of the unit and they go in. There's a slot that they go into, so they can only go one way when you put these in. It's very fortunate to even still have these. I've seen a couple of very few of these online, but the couple that I've seen had owners that complained that they had to have these made because they didn't come with them when they found them. This one actually already still had the original pitch antenna as well, and this one also comes out, just pops right out, slides into place. But let's turn the unit around and take a look at the back. Here is the back of the unit, and as you can see, everything's in pretty good shape. I mean, this grill cloth is pretty pristine. This is the same grill cloth that's on the front in that one little patch, and you can see here there underneath the grill cloth there is a cutout rectangle. That's actually so that the tubes can get air for ventilation. But let's look at the bottom of the unit, and we will see a serial number and also see inside of it. Here is the bottom of the unit. As you can see here, there are a couple of planks that are tacked on, and these have kind of a velvet sort of covering so they don't scratch whatever table or surface that you set the unit on. The bottom panel comes off with a couple screws here. Let's go ahead and get those open. Actually, before we take the bottom panel off, I wanted to point out one other thing here. If you look very closely on the bottom panel, you will see a 6020, and that right there is the serial number for the unit. His serialization was the first two digits were the year, so that's, I think, 1960, the 20th thing that he made in 1960. And I think around this time also, he really only had one product, and that was the Vanguard Theremin. So this is the 20th Vanguard Theremin he made in 1960. When you remove these screws to get this bottom panel off, it's actually not, and I forgot about this, it's not actually the bottom panel that comes off, it is this panel that comes off. So when you undo these screws, you lift up gently on this panel, and everything I do here is going to be gently, since this is basically a irreplaceable thing. I mean, you're not going to find any more of these, so. And we can see here he's got a tube complement of a 12 BF6, a 12 AU6, a 12 AU7A, a 50 L6 GT, and a 35 Z5 GT rectifier. So there's rectifier, power tube, and this is our preamp. And judging by the numbers on the rectifier and the power tube, we can see that this is probably a series filament amplifier. That is, all the filaments for the tubes are run in series, so they will all dissipate a total of about 110 or 120 volts. Okay, I'm just going to lay the unit up on its side like this so we can see a little easier. We can see here, here are a couple of the coils. We have one coil down here that helps regulate the volume circuit. We have another coil up here that helps regulate the pitch. That goes to the pitch. Both those are run to the chassis, and you have tunable. These are tunable just like you would find in a radio. I forget what these are called. I'm usually a guitar amp guy. Here is our pilot light, which shines down on the plexiglass when you have the unit on. Nice kind of, I don't know if this is an anodized chassis, but it's kind of a gold color. And these all look like original tubes. These are all RCAs, and I believe they're all from the time period. We have here that looks like it might be a Sylvania. But again, these do, and that's a Sylvania as well. So, but these all look time period to me. I haven't looked at codes. This one here is a Utah speaker, and this is kind of a little one. This is like I would say this is like I don't know, like a 6x4 or something maybe, or 6.5 by 4 inch speaker. It's very small. It's a Utah. Let's see what it says on the code. Let's see if we can even see it. I'll read it to us. It's SP57E. The code is 328. That's just Utah 830. So that's 30th week of 1958. And it's 32 ohms. And that's the original speaker as well. Sits right down in there perfectly. You can see the baffle for the speaker. The speaker comes out. It has two pieces of wood holding the baffle in. There's one piece here with 4 screws, and then there's another piece up top with 4 screws. And the whole, if you remove all those, that whole speaker with baffle will come out. We have a removable speaker jack here, which is like a 4-pin jack. Everything inside the unit, to my knowledge, is completely original. We may as well go ahead and take the chassis out and take a look since we have this thing open. One other note before we take the chassis out, we will see that the serial number 6020 is repeated here on the chassis itself, so we know that this chassis is original to this cabinet. Okay, here's your ultra rare look at the inside of an early Bob Moog Vanguard Theremin. As you can see here, everything is original, down to the Sprague atom. Electrolytic caps over here. These are all definitely original. I mean, this thing has not been touched. And I know that because I've worked on so many guitar amps from around this era, 1958 to 1960, that this is the sort of thing that you would see in them. And I don't see anything out of the ordinary. I don't see any disturbed anything whatsoever, actually. See a couple Sangamo capacitors, which I've seen in Dan Electro amplifiers from this era. Let's see, we have a 930 right there on that cap, and that's going to be the 30th week of 1959 right there. There we have 1959, 13th week of 1959 on that cap. You can see 913 there. And I see nothing else out of place or out of the ordinary for a piece of electronics of this age. We have all these chiclet style caps that we see here. Lots of those. We see another style cap here. That's a ceramic. And man, this thing is really clean, just really untouched. And to think this was built by Robert Moog. This is not a factory item. This is something he was building in his garage, basically, at this time. There's a Sprague cap right down here, and that looks like that might be some sort of that little Black Beauty. Let's see if we can get a better light going. That Black Beauty down inside there, you can see that's probably some sort of death cap. Let's see if we can find some codes on these pots. 273834, so that's the 34th week of 1958 probably on that one. So yeah, there are the guts of the unit. Now let's get everything back together. Actually, let's look at the inside of the, while we have this thing out. We may as well turn it over and look at this side. Give us a different look of this. Again, we have a little plexiglass face. And let's see what codes are on these. I'm not real familiar with these sorts of codes, so I don't know either way. Here's the inside of the cabinet without the chassis installed. Better look at the speaker. So yeah, let's get this thing back together and hear what it sounds like with a very bad theremin player. Everything's back in, but I noticed one more thing before we move along and listen to the tone. Just for good measure, Mr. Moog stamped the serial number 6020 again on the inside of the cabinet. So in case you rub off your serial number underneath and you somehow rub off the serial number on the chassis, you'll still have a record of the serial number on the inside of the cab. So that's kind of cool. Now let's give it a listen. Okay, I have the unit on, and we're gonna play it here. One thing I will note, this thing gets very loud in spite of the small speaker, and also if the pitch adjustment, if you don't set the pitch adjustment to a certain point, it will make sound constantly, no matter where you are in relation to the instrument. So you. And I don't know if that's really a design feature or not, but I'm basically setting this to that silent point, and we are just going to kind of take it from there. I'm going to set the volume up most of the way up here, and we'll see what it sounds like. You know, again, I'm no Clara Rockmore, but let's see if we can make her roll over in her grave with how bad I am. One thing I will note is that this thing is a little bit noisier from the last time I fired it up, and I think it's probably just going to need some electrolytic caps. I mean, it's one of those things that it's kind of sad but true. Once something gets this old, it's almost certainly going to need electrolytic caps. But I am going to reverse the polarity on the plug, which is still the original 2-prong, and we'll see if that cleans up some of this noise. Actually, if anything, that might have made it slightly worse. So let's put it back. Could also be because I've noticed that that noise goes away when I touch the volume. So if the volume is making that noise cut out, then it could be a tube issue. So let's actually turn the unit over and wiggle a couple of tubes, being very careful not to put my hand up inside the unit. Yep. There's our problem. We have a dirty tube socket. Another common thing with old equipment. So yeah, I think that's all it was. Dirty tube socket. Let's try it again. So yeah, there's my bad theremin playing on a 1960 Moog made Vanguard theremin. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to my channel for other videos. And also, I will post links down here in the description to performances by Mr. DeMar, who was the former owner of the instrument, and also maybe to a couple of Clara Rockmore concerts, so you can see what a real theremin is supposed to sound like. So again, hope you've enjoyed this video, and be sure to subscribe for more videos like this in the future. Take care.